Sorry. Hello, everyone. We are here with Nupur Sharma. She's been at the receiving end of extremely serious threats recently, death threats, rape threats, and beheading threats, after she made certain comments on a debate on Times Now. She made certain comments on Islam and the Prophet of Islam, and the Islamists have, as usual, taken offense to it. The mob has been driven by an alleged fact checker. We will address that issue with Nupur as well. She is the national spokesperson of BJP, and for the past 2 or 3 days, this controversy has been raging, and Nupur's security is at serious threat. And maybe we can use this opportunity to talk about what she said, why she said it, and just how serious the situation is. So, hi Nupur, thank you for speaking to us. I hope you're
Thank you.
safe
So far.
so far. So, Nupur, let's start with what you said and what was the context of what you said in the debate. Because unfortunately, Times now has pulled down the video. They have a little bit buckled under the pressure, and the video is no longer available. So, we don't know what was being said before you made those comments. So, could we get into that, please?
Nupur, hi. Thanks for calling me. I would actually, before I answer your question, I would go back into how you started. In your opening, you said, I've been receiving death threats ever since I was on the TV debate. No, that's not true. The debate happened, time passed. It's only when it was edited and selectively put up by a so called fact checker, who I like to address as a fake news spreader, and with the body of his tweet saying that I'm one, insulting his God, two, I'm spewing hate, and three, abusing his God, is when actually those who perhaps wouldn't even manage to watch what the video was, or perhaps even the full debate, or even bothered to check what happened on the debate in its entirety, started sending me death, rape, gang rape, and beheading threats. Today, the situation, Nupur, is that I have a bounty on my head. AIMIM has come out with a 1 crore bounty on my head. There is a 5 million Pakistani rupee bounty in Pakistan. I have just received from, I think, Tehreek, not the political party, but some Pakistan Tehreek, somebody also coming out with a death threat. And these are just three of the perhaps 3 lakh uh, threats I have received. And ever since this fake news spreader, Mohammad Zubair, twisted and put up a video. And now, interestingly, after putting my head on the line and asking for a bounty on my head, he's making his bounties. He's actually gone on to open his shop and seeking donations. If you like my work, of vitiating the atmosphere and disturbing the communal harmony of this country. In fact, today it's worldwide. It's not just in India that I'm facing these threats and beheading calls. Now, since you asked what happened on the debate, if you know, in the Gyanvapi matter before the Honorable Supreme Court, when the Honorable Justice was apprised that there is a lot of name calling, meme making, and joke making happening, the Honorable Justice actually observed that there should be restraint. But that hasn't really deterred a lot of people. I have heard umpteen number of times, our gods being called a favara. I think the very same day or the day earlier on a debate, some Islamic scholar came and said, Behan Mayawati has made a park in Noida, in Uttar Pradesh, on the Delhi-Uttar Pradesh border. And, she's made elephants. So tomorrow, if you're going to start putting a tilak and Male Arpan and Puja ki thali, and start making elephants,
Nupur, I think you've muted yourself. Yeah, yeah, you're audible now. Go on, go on.
yeah. So tomorrow, if you go to the park built by Bhen Mayawati, start garlanding one of the many elephants she's built and put a tilak and start doing puja and say it's Ganpati. Wouldn't that be Ganpati? I mean, such kind of unsavory. I even heard on my own debate somebody saying Jai Shri Ram is an insult. I don't know who's getting insulted by calling out God's name, but many such unsavory things. I mean, there are multiple debates per day. There could be multiple unsavory things, and they are said. Like, for example, I'm now getting posters of Lord Krishna, and people are saying he's dabbling in porn, and it's like a porn film or something. So it's unending. Um, On my debate, particularly, in spite of repeatedly requesting, the Honorable Supreme Court has observed so practice restraint, otherwise, you're in contempt of court. It wasn't stopping. The mocking didn't stop. There was a person from the Congress party, there was the SDPI, Dr. Rahmani, and there was somebody, some Suhail from AIMIM, who's quite hardcore and radical about his opinions on national television. The three of them continued to mock. And all I did was, I said, you continue to insult our gods in spite of what the Honorable Supreme Court has said. There is rule of law of the Constitution in India, not the Sharia in India. How would you feel if we start doing it? In fact, that's not also what I said. Do I ever say, and I quoted some verses as is, as are propounded very regularly by their clerics, by the senior scholars, not a word out of what these people factually say. Now, this fraudulent fact checker edited and selectively put up a video without actually going into the entire debate. And he wrote particularly, I'm hate mongering, I'm hate spewing, I'm insulting, I'm abusing, and what have you. And what that has led to, and that happened the day after, not on Thursday night, that happened the day after. Not even then. It took perhaps many hours after that for this onslaught of unending beheading calls for me, not only from India but the world over. My concern is different, Nupur. We are a country wherein we often hear the Honorable Supreme Court say, and you'd remember, freedom of speech, dissent is the safety valve of a democracy. So kindly dissent in a democratic manner. And I invite, via you, I would urge anybody who's watching this, any learned senior cleric, Islamic scholar, I invite you. If factually I'm wrong, please come correct me. I would be happy to take my statement back. But the response to it cannot be beheading calls for me. For that matter, one thing I would like to actually also add before you can ask your next question, please. I said that to Mr. Mohammad Zubair. Why don't you put up the entire video? Why have you selectively put up an edited video? His response was, why don't you go to Times Now and upload Dharam Sansad video? He completely dodged and ducked my question. 2 points. I was never employed with Times Now. And point number two, um, I never went to the Dharam Sansad. In fact, I'm not somebody who openly would support, because I feel that was all politically motivated, considering that I am an actual practitioner of politics in my everyday life. But here you have somebody who completely dodged, avoided putting up the entire video because he wanted to hide how, in spite of the Honorable Supreme Court's observations, there's some people in his lobby who were going out on a limb abusing some gods of the Hindu side. So, my open question is, in a civil society, is a discussion going to be relegated to a beheading call? Or are we going to now open up a debate worldwide? What is actually free speech? How can quoting from somebody's scripture be hate speech or insulting speech or abusing speech? Because if that is your contention, the entire basis of the question changes.
Absolutely, Nupur. In fact, at this point, I'd like to bring up this issue. In February 2019, the High Court, the Madras High Court, had actually categorically said that having an opinion on Prophet Muhammad is not derogatory, and freedom of expression is not blasphemy. And
Hmm.
this was 2019 Madras High Court judgment that none of these journalists seem to be talking about. In fact, the calls to murder, behead, rape, extended to you, your family, to everybody you know, is coming on a whim, on feelings, and not really the constitution that they seem to drum up every opportunity that they get. And since you mentioned that what you said is simply and merely quoting their own scriptures, I would like to mention a couple of verses from the scriptures, and I would leave it to the audience to
Nupur,
judge.
can I just add
Yeah,
one thing?
sure. Please go on.
You said, you spoke about the Madras High Court judgment. In fact, the Madras High Court judgment went a step further to say having an opinion is not derogatory. I did not even have an opinion. I just narrated as read and heard. So if verbatim repetition of what is being written about in in a religion, or in their scriptures rather, if that itself is insult, hate, and I would say abuse, as I'm being told that I abused and I spewed hatred and I insulted, then I would like to repeat and reiterate, the basis of the entire fiasco changes. The question changes. It surely cannot be a crime if somebody from another religion starts reading my scriptures or start saying it in public. I'm strictly speaking legally. For that matter, what has happened is Article 14, my right under Article 14, under Article 19, and under the Article 21 have been completely thwarted because of a very devious, malafide mindset of a so called fake news spreader who's opened up his shop for donations.
Absolutely. So I'll just read out a couple of verses and I'll leave it to the audience. Hadith 22 of Book 38 talks about the existence of winged horses in paradise. Abu Ayyub, an Ansar who supported Prophet Muhammad after the Hijrah, the migration to Medina in 1622, recounts an incident about the Bedou asking the Islamic prophet if there indeed are winged horses in paradise. O Messenger of Allah, indeed I love horses. Are there horses in paradise? The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, if you are admitted into paradise, you shall be brought a horse of rubies with two wings. Then you shall be carried on it, then will fly with you wherever you want, said the Hadith. And this is in the hadith. Of course, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of sections who would endorse it, and there are a lot of sections which would dispute it because hadiths are not like the Quran, and there is always a debate. Another one, according to revered Sahih al Bukhari, I apologize if my pronunciation of any of the words are incorrect. Sahih al Bukhari 5134, book 67, hadith 70. The Prophet, peace be upon him, married Aisha when she was 6 years old, and he consummated his marriage when she was 9 years old. Bukhari mentions that Prophet Muhammad was 53 years old when he married Aisha. These are from the book, and I can go on and on. Hadith 3380 of Book 26, Volume 4 of Sunan an Nasai 3378, that also talks about exactly the same thing. We can go on quoting hadiths and we can go on quoting the Quran. It can be disputed. There are certain sections between the Sunnis and Shia that dispute the hadith. There are certain sections that support the hadith. However, what Nupur mentioned in her debate on Times Now is from the Islamic scriptures. It is written in the hadiths. We can have a discussion on whether these hadiths are acceptable to a broad majority of the Islamic community, whether they're not acceptable to the broad majority of the Islamic community. However, these verses exist. And merely quoting these verses cannot be a reason, or even having an opinion on these verses, as the High Court has said, cannot be a reason to call for anybody's murder. And if we do that, and if the Islamic community wishes to do that, we have to have a broader debate on where freedom of expression stands vis a vis the street power that certain communities exercise in India today. So, Nupur, we now know the background of what happened in Times Now. How long had passed? How much time had passed between the debate and when Zubair tweeted, and then when the threats started coming in?
You can say roughly it started on Friday evening, early evening, late evening ish. So actually almost 24 hours later.
So for
And the
24
debate was,
hours, there was nothing.
yeah, yeah. Except
Okay.
for one tweet by Mohammad Zubair sometime in the daytime on Friday.
Okay. So it was after almost 24 hours when he put the video and made the
He
claims
put the
that he
video
was.
almost 12, or I would say 12 or 15 hours later. It
Okay.
was a live televised debate. He put the video around 15 hours later with his opinion, by the way,
Yes.
with his false narrative and propagating video. And that's what he does. He's a propagandist, right? And with the content of, this is what I'm attempting to do. He just attempted to sway an opinion to open his shop and seek donations, perhaps in exchange of beheading calls for me and my family members.
Uh, there has been widespread criticism from certain quarters, Nupur, that BJP as a party, since you are their national spokesperson, that no big leader has come out to support you or condemn the calls of violence being made against you. And perhaps the party is not doing much to support you in this extremely dangerous situation. So, what would you say about that? Is it accurate? Has anything been done? What is your opinion?
Well, Lupo, there are two fronts to this. I'm mostly thankful of our senior leadership. I'm in constant touch. The first people to actually call me after this blew out of proportion on Friday evening was actually a call from the Honorable Home Minister's office. And even though he's been traveling for work, he was out of Delhi till today. Um, I have been uh, I have been in touch with his office every day, and I'm so thankful because I know no matter what people say, our Honorable Union Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji is most concerned about the health and safety of the party's karyakartas, and especially because this is regarding safety of me and my immediate family members. This is an actual threat. I wasn't actually taking it that seriously before I was told by the cops. Uh, I went to the police commissioner in Delhi to meet with him, and I have an input from some intelligence people that there is an actual threat. This is not just on social media. Um, so I'm most thankful to him. He's been reaching out. I'm in touch with the party president's office as well. I'm thankful to, very surprisingly, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, who just recently joined our ranks. He was the first person to come out in open. But yes, I would expect, I'll be very honest, I'm not going to mince my words. This is not just me. This is not about me. This is about upholding our rights to actual free speech. And I'm not saying hate speech, to free speech. There are a lot of people who go and end up saying a lot of unsavory, a lot of disrespectful things, yet no calls for action happens. You know what happened with the Delhi University professor, right? If there was action, there was bail. But did he get any beheading calls? Was there any fatwa issued against him? Was there any bounty declared on his head? None of that. So, in a country wherein even the Supreme Court wants to uphold democratic free speech values, even dissenting, going a step further, in fact, 10 step further, dissenting values. Here we are, wherein, unfortunately, and that's not just limited to some of my colleagues in the party, I have nothing against my senior leadership. Hats off to them. They have been so concerned. In the morning, I was called by the LG. I met the CP the day after. I have been in touch with, because this is not about me anymore. It's about having to protect not only my life, but of my immediate family members, which has been the life of who have been put on the line thanks to a fake news spreader by the name of AltNews proprietor, Mr. Zubair, whatever his name is. But the fact of the matter is, the system is currently concerned. And I can tell you, after Raza Academy, infamous for their Azad Midan riots and for desecrating, destroying the Amar Jawan Jyoti, um, those rather culprits and doers can go ahead and file an FIR against me. Devendra Fadnavis ji called to say, "Don't worry, beta, we are with you. We are all here with you." So the senior leadership, be it the Prime Minister's office, the Honorable Home Minister's office, be it the party president's office, they're all rallying behind me. But I would expect it out of my more immediate colleagues. And more importantly, what is more disappointing, because when I have the party president, union home minister, and I'm in touch with the prime minister's office as well, I know that they are with me. I know the entire system, the family is with me. But what is more disappointing is a lot of unsavory things were said about our side as well, including on my debate and on multiple others. It's not stopped. The mocking hasn't stopped. How many people who are supporting, and I will put this question, Nupur, whether people, I appreciate the support I'm getting on social media, please don't get me wrong, but how many people have gone out to actually register complaints? This is insult. This is abuse. This is bookable under section 153 and 295 and 505. How many people have registered complaints? When the Honorable Supreme Court has gone out to say restraint from name calling, meme making, and mocking, yet people continue to actually call it a favara. I do hope legally you would understand and appreciate, Nupur, That means every person who's referred to it as a favara on live television or otherwise is liable to be booked not only under contempt but also under hate speech under 295 and causing to create communal disharmony under 153 and 295. How many complaints have come from our side? How many? I tell you why. We are not of a vicious mindset. And it's not just about being a vicious mindset. It's about, we want to be comfortable somewhere. We are okay with it. We are the most tolerant race. I have traveled far and wide in the world. We are one of the most tolerant races you'll find. Yet, our tolerance is that we are taking it, lightly and taking it as given that they're beheading calls, they're calls to disrupt the communal harmony, and they're calls to, put a bounty, 1 crore, 5 million Pakistani rupees. And it's not just me, it could be anybody else tomorrow. And there have been instances yesterday. This case is not about me. This case is about what is right, what is legal. Can we? There is no blasphemy law in India. Can we? And this should open a debate, Nupur, and I expect you to do it because you're one person I've been following for years. Can we allow, under the garb of blasphemy, not legally tenable in a country like India, can we allow the superimposition of Sharia laws over and above what the Constitution of India states? Can we allow it? And if we cannot, if the law of the land, if the letter of the Constitution of India is supreme, then there should be a rightful argument about this before the highest court of law as to what is legit and legal and what is not, and what should be allowed and what should not be.
No, but this opens a whole different can of worms. Now, we know legally what is happening is, of course, not allowed. But the intolerant minority does have and does exercise a certain street power which allows them to do this. We saw that in the case of Kamlesh Tiwari, for example. It was Kamlesh Tiwari who was arrested for speech while people from the Muslim community took to the streets saying, Gustakhe Rasool ki saza sartan se juda. And they carried out that threat by murdering him ultimately,
Mm.
right? So the law didn't really play a role in Kamlesh Tiwari's case because they took to the streets and they did what they had to do to avenge what they perceived as an insult, right? So, who do we look to and who do we expect from to counter this unbridled street power that one community seems to exercise? Because no law seems to arrest that street power in motion. And we've seen that over and over again. We've seen that in Kamlesh Tiwari's case. We've seen that in Kishan Bhardwaj's case, which has happened recently. We've seen that as far as attacks on Hindu processions are concerned, the lives that they have cost. Who do we look to, and how do we arrest this kind of unbridled street power that doesn't get arrested with the law?
Well, in Kamlesh Tiwari's case, the law was functioning adversely. That those who were threatening and calling out to riot were considered to be victims rather than though the person who may have said something. There is always, in a civil country run by a rule of law, there is always a legal way to do things. And beheading and threatening calls is not legal. It is illegal, must I tell you. In such a scenario, the best way to counter street power would not be street power by us. It would be a legal recourse. I understand. I understand your apprehensions, how successful and how far and wide is the fight going to go. But until unless we start a public debate, trust you me, there's nothing that is going to change. And for that, we need to have a very concerted plan, which is conceived to be carried out day in and day out until it reaches the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, in my case, there is a case registered against me, okay, by culprits of what? Of desecrating Amar Jawan Jyoti, of issuing fatwas, even calling for fatwa to be issued against the French president. If you look for Raza Academy, it's nomenclatured as a fundamentalist radical Islamist outfit. Now, since when did they become the aggrieved party to call me a culprit of something? They pressurized, got an FIR registered against me. My FIR is about the imminent threat to my family and the beheading and the bounty calls on me. and my family members. Now, since the matter is sub judice, I want this argument to go on in court. Whether it's in the Mumbai High Court, whether it's here in Delhi, and I want it to reach the Honorable Supreme Court. And I expect the least I expect, from the courts of law before whom I practice, Nupur?
Yeah, you're audible. Go on.
Yeah. The least I expect from the Honorable Courts of Law is a full, fair hearing and in their right mind to uphold what they feel is legal. And the question is simple: is the Constitution of India going to be upheld, or is the Sharia way of life going to be upheld in India? It's simple. It can actually be, juice nikalte ho na, it will sum down to this: what needs to be upheld in this country.
Now, another question, Nupur. You spoke about how there are no cases that have been registered against those people who are indulging in not just contempt of court but also hate speech by mocking the shivling that has been discovered at the disputed Gyanvapi complex. Now, my question to you is, as a lawyer, can states take suo motu cognizance of the hate speech being spewed? For example, we saw in Uttar Pradesh how one person has been arrested because they were delivering a hate speech not just against you but all Hindus broadly, and calling for murder. Now, can states act on their own? And that question then also gives me to, what about those people who are in states like Delhi, in Uttar Pradesh, in Madhya Pradesh, etc., where there is a BJP government? And can they take suo motu cognizance and make sure that people not just calling for violence against you, but also indulging in contempt of court and hate speech against the shivling and against our gods and goddesses, can they be pulled up?
Usually what happens in these cases is what the cops do is see the imminent threat or what the result of the hate speech is going to be. For example, something has been said, say it's been called unsavory names. For example, our Shivling, our Lord Mahadev has been called unsavory names. What is the likelihood that that is going to lead to street power? That is going to lead to rioting and arson, for example, Azad Maidan, done by Raza Academy. Or, for example, even that boy who's standing outside his college trying to espouse, religious sentiments and perhaps lead to some sort of rioting. How many people do you think from the Hindu side is going to be rioting, destroying, and causing destruction on the streets? I don't know of many. I don't know of many. When a peaceful protest, or not even a protest, when a peaceful yatra, for example, Ram Navami and Hanuman Jayanti yatras, can be attacked, when are we going to finally discuss that we are the victims? I'm not trying to say here, nor am I going to encourage anybody to come out on the streets and cause havoc. No, it's not our place. We are a civil society. But is only a portion of our Indian society civil? And is the responsibility of being rational and civil only on Hindus? Or only, for example, on Sikhs, or only on some Christians, and only on Jews, or only on Parsis? Why is the larger responsibility of being responsible on our shoulders? Why does the law not equally apply to those who are taking the law in their hands? And mind you, what the UP government has done is actually the legal way. Perhaps the suo motu cognizance in this issue is more rightful in picking up the people calling for beheading. By the way, जो संज्ञान में ले लिया है, the cops, the local thanas are in cognizance of what's happening. But when you suo motu take a cognizance, there needs to be an aggrieved party. And that's why it's necessary to sound aggrieved, but go the legal way about it. Do not go on the streets and riot. Because I'll tell you what, we respect our country. We are the taxpayers ultimately. Whatever we'll be destroying in public has been paid for by our money. हम पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं ना, हमें पता है. मैं ये नहीं कह रही हूँ that बाकी वर्ग के अंदर पढ़े लिखे लोग नहीं हैं, लेकिन जब वो पढ़े लिखे लोग ऐसे Jahil calls for beheading. You know what somebody said to me? My mother must have been gang raped by multiple links to produce me. Not only is it a threat, not only is it unsavory, but it also actually hurts my religious feelings, does it not? Or even my mother's religious feelings. And he posted a picture of my Mahadev Lord. This is just one of the many examples, Nupur. It's unending. I have 2 lakh plus, 3 lakh plus. Every time I go, you go on to my name trending and you'll find out. I mean, it's crazy. When are we going to have a worldwide condemnation call against this attempt to superimpose religious laws over and above the democratic legal systems of different countries? Because I'm getting threats from UK, I'm getting threats from Pakistan, from Dubai, from Southeast Asian countries. I have lost track. I don't have the time to read 3 lakh plus beheading calls. So, for all those fancy, educated Muslims, look beyond your politics. Because what is being done to me today could be done to you tomorrow. Because internally also you have a lot of fissures and issues. If I were to sit here and speak about the 71, 72 sects, it is an unending conversation, right? Don't just look at me per my religion. Look within.
So, Nupur, one question: how many educated, moderate Muslims have come out on Twitter to support you
I've only
against?
seen one Begum, I forget her name. It's not a verified handle.
Are you talking about the Pasmanda Muslim activist,
I
Amana?
don't know. I'm not aware of her, but she is the most rational voice I've heard in my support. And Shubuhi Khan, for that matter. She's condemning the beheading calls against. I don't know of any other. I don't know of any
We've
other.
heard so much about the moderate Muslim community and how terrorism and all of this has nothing to do with Islam and has nothing to do with the Muslim community, which is why I wanted to understand if there has been a mass movement of moderate Muslims supporting you against these radicals. And
Not really, but I
seeing,
must mention,
yeah.
I did get a call from Tehseen Poonawala. He said whatever has to be done legally. I completely, and I don't know if he'll appreciate, but he's like, I'm completely with you. You're my sister, and this is not the way in a civil society to ask for beheading calls. I mean, who would have imagined that I'm going to appreciate his call? But yeah, not anybody else.
What has been your family's reaction, Nupur? Because I think
Yeah,
a lot of people mention that, you, Nupur, should have known that even taking Prophet Muhammad's name may land her in this situation. So, what has been your family's reaction? Have they asked you why you said it, why you did it? Any of that? What has been their reaction? Are they worried for your safety, their own safety?
well, legally, I did not know that taking some god's name is going to, attract beheading calls and gang rape and rape and threats and death threats. No, I did not know. If tomorrow somebody is going to speak about Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, just mention their names. I'm not even talking about having an opinion or passing judgments. Is it going to attract beheading calls? सर तन से जुदा इतनी बार पढ़ चुकी हूँ मैं कि मैं I'm like basically sitting at home and I'm like joking with my, because they are concerned. They are concerned. My family actually, for the larger part of their lives, lived in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Not many people know this. My grandfather used to serve in the United Nations. And my father was like, it's not about legality. You might be absolutely, right in what you did legally because in your mind you know the law. But look at the onslaught and the trouble it has brought to the family. He's not condemning me. My family today is supporting me. They're standing rock solid. And I said, I will fight it out in the courts. I'm saying it again. If I have been wrong factually, please, with folded hands, I request a learned Islamic scholar or cleric not a fake news spreader like Mohammad Zubair, who doesn't know anything anyway. I urge somebody to come and factually correct me. Why isn't that happening? Why was my question to actually put out the whole video and factually correct me by the fake fact checker, diverted into Dharam Sansad and upload a video on Times Now and all that jazz? Why has nobody come forward? Every possible media interview I have done, Nupur, I have had two things to say. I invite anybody to come forward, correct me factually. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to take back my statement, but do it civilly. And point number two, if anything happens to myself, or rather, more importantly, any of my family members or my immediate circle, let it be known 150% Mohammad Zubair is to be held responsible. You can take it as like a dying declaration if you may, but it's a fact. Wholly and solely, Mohammed Zubair should be held culpable, should be tried and booked for vitiating atmosphere, for misleading, for misrepresenting, for spearheading and leading a charade, an unending onslaught of beheading, death, rape threats against me and my family members. I have a kid sister. I have received umpteen number of gang rape threats against her. Just imagine if I were to sit down and start, taking it in. Any normal person should be under severe duress and should be worried. But I'll tell you what, Nupur, I believe in the rule of the law. There's a reason why I pursued law. There's a reason why I practice. And there's a reason why I'm in public life. And I want the honorable courts, they should take cognizance. Take cognizance of this. What should supersede? The Sharia or the Constitution of India?
Um, there's no debate on the fact that this is an extremely grave situation. It's very dangerous. We've seen how these things have played out in the past. How do you see the role of the mainstream media in all of this? Times Now did retract the video. Um, for me personally, I see it as throwing the individual under the bus instead of saying that this was quoted verbatim. If we had outraged about what was said about the shivling, I can almost guarantee that the video would not have been retracted by any channel. But Times Now did retract the video where you had made the comments. I don't see any widespread debate in mainstream media about what you're going through or what you said or about freedom of speech and expression that we hold dear. And they like to drum up to abuse our gods and goddesses and to condemn us every given step of the way. How do you see the role of the mainstream media, a large section of which is actually supporting Muhammad Zubair?
Well, actually, I'm thankful to Miss Navika Kumar in a personal capacity. She's in touch with me, and it's not that she's not at the receiving end of these threats. She's being threatened equally, right? Perhaps a notch lower than me, but yeah, she's under threat as well. She has come out publicly in my support, and she has also personally written to me. As far as the company policy is concerned, perhaps the question needs to go to Mr. Vineet Jain. What did he buckle under? A superimposition of Sharia? What did he buckle under? What? And I have heard that the group is concerned we don't want any FIRs. Well, if you are a company incorporated in India as per Indian laws, then you should fight for your existence because you make profits out of it per the Indian laws. How can you
Yeah, you're
can you
audible.
hear me? How can you possibly make money out of the Indian constitution but function as per what is not allowed, the Sharia laws? How is that? How is this, you know, uh, contradicting existence of a company working? And it's not just Times Now. I don't want to make an example out of Times Now. A lot of people have buckled under, the threat of superimposition of Sharia. And today, I would say, I would urge I
Yeah,
would
you're
urge
audible.
I would urge no less than the Honorable Supreme Court and the High Courts to please take cognizance and once and for all settle the debate. Is India going to be governed and run by the Indian Constitution, drafted by Dr. Ambedkar, or are we going to be governed by religious laws and Sharia to be precise?
Have you got any calls from any other mainstream media channel to actually discuss what's been happening for the past
No,
72 hours?
they're all. I mean, I'm in touch with them. They've come to interview me. Some are also notorious. I'll be very honest. They would love to see, a BJP politician get killed because they get TRPs to show it, perhaps. But nobody is actually willing to engage in an actual debate as to what is the country coming to. And the so called educated, rational side of the other side is actually hands and glove. Not a single line of condemnation. Like I said, it's me today. It could be you tomorrow. And by you, I don't mean you. I mean the so called educated, rational elite belonging even to the Muslim side. What are you actually allowing and giving credibility to? What are you acknowledging? What are you giving credence to? Is anybody actually in their right mind thinking कि चल क्या रहा है? कोई बात कर रहा है इस बारे में? ये सबसे बड़ी बहस है और ये चलनी चाहिए. This needs to go on. That's why my moot point is, let not this debate die down. What will govern and run legally this country?
Last two questions to you. I'm going to club them together because I know you're running short on time as well. One is that we've seen the left act as the ideological backbone, giving covering fire to Islamists very, very often. In your case, we've seen that play out extremely starkly. Now, I think the question that everybody has is yes, going out and filing FIRs is one thing that everybody needs to do. However, as we spoke about earlier, the threat perception of the Hindu community taking to the streets is extremely low.
Hmm.
Hindus don't do that.
Hmm.
And therefore, it almost seems like the law will work only for those who threaten the state with violence.
Hmm.
And if a community does not threaten the state with violence, then their the illegality being caused to them is going to be pushed under the rug or not taken seriously.
Hmm.
And this sort of paradigm is also supported by the left that
Hmm.
uses it to their advantage.
Hmm.
So, what is the way out as far as this is concerned? One,
So that
B,
actually,
yeah,
huh,
B,
you
one
wanted
second.
to.
You did say that your colleagues in the BJP have not spoken out as much as you would want them to. And we've seen that play out several times earlier as well, where there are a lot of people who wish that the BJP did come out in full force in certain situations to voice their condemnation and support, not just to their own leaders, but also those who are being hounded in a similar fashion in other instances. So, how would you address these two questions?
So, Nupur, first and foremost, for your the left wing question, it's interesting. I feel that they oppose for the sake of opposing. I don't take it as a force to reckon with because they're a confused lot. They like to call themselves atheists, and they say we don't believe, in religion, should have no interference and all of that. But at the same time, they will go and support one of the most radical fronts. For what? Under the pretext of supporting free speech. What about mine? So they are a compromised lot. Left wing is actually a compromised lot, and झूठों की फौज है. And their politics is only opposing for the sake of opposing. जो अपनी country का नहीं हो सका. I don't want to go into the details of जो अपनी country का नहीं हो सका at the time of war. वो क्या होगा? वो किसी और का क्या होगा? वो अपने ही लोगों का क्या होगा? So I don't really expect much out of them. And why should I? What was your question number two? That Hindus are not going to go on a limb and go on the
Uh,
streets.
that was a part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So the law seems to work for those who take the law into their own hands.
So that's the whole point. What else explains the registration of the FIR by Raza Academy? I mean, the cops should have said, "अच्छा, तुम तो वही हो जिन्होंने 10 साल पहले वो कितने लोग convict हो गए भाई आजाद मैदान में और कितना those who destroyed and desecrated the Amar Jawan Jyoti." I mean, cops should have said, तुम्हें तो पहले मैं धर लेता हूँ. तुम क्या करोगे? Are you trying to say it's not under immense pressure? At one end, AIMIM has actually announced a 1 crore bounty on my head. On the other end, there people are going and registering a case against me. Shouldn't the cops have done that? So that's the whole point. I want the higher ups, I want the highest court in this country to take cognizance as to the actual culprits and going and filing complaints as if they were the aggrieved parties. I mean, laughable. I want this to be fought on the in the courts. I'm not somebody who's going to fight it on the streets, most certainly, but I want this to be fought in the courts. What is going to rule? How many times? It boils down to this issue: what is right as per the Indian law, or what is right as per Sharia law? What is going to win ultimately in this country? And what was the third question?
That you mentioned how your colleagues in the BJP haven't really come out to voice their support and voice their condemnation, and that has been a grievance of most supporters, a lot of the supporters across the board, that we don't see a lot of leaders from BJP, we don't see a lot of people from BJP come out in the open to express condemnation for such acts, for support of those who have been supporting them or who are their leaders, etc. What is the way out of this, and why do you think this sort of silence exists?
Let me just make it very clear. My party is solidly behind me. I wouldn't have been talking to you today if it wasn't. They're extremely concerned. The Bharatiya Janata Party, right from the top, even Manya Santoshi gave me a call. Ma'am, all cool, don't worry. Everybody in the system who's calling the shots, the party fully, wholly supports me. But my grouse is more about my immediate colleagues. I'm a spokesperson. We're a team of 27 people. Barring a few, I would say that I've been made calls by, concerned calls by, some senior spokespersons as well. My media head is most concerned. He calls me 3 times a day. He's getting everything, he's steering everything. But yes, we are a big party. A lot of MLAs from Uttar Pradesh, from different areas, have actually come forth and tweeted in my favor. Senior leadership is in consistent touch with me. They don't need to put this out. But my immediate colleagues could have gone out and openly condemned this because it's happening to me today. I'm a part of them. I'm not Nupur Sharma. I am a national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. What is happening to me today could have been done to my other colleagues, could have been done to my junior. A lot of junior people have also come out. But yes, it should have been more widespread because I want, like I said, the minute it becomes more widespread, we start in motion, we set in motion a more larger public debate which needs to not be stopped immediately. We need to have this debate, and until unless influential voices. Why am I saying my immediate colleagues? Because at our level, most of us are influential voices because we have had considerable experience in public life. A lot of people recognize us, know us. Some are elected, some are sitting in authoritative positions, some are in responsible positions, some are in very publicly, acknowledged positions. If all of them got together, then just imagine the kind of debate and in a participative democracy, how it would set in motion uh, the exact argument I'm talking about. And ultimately, it is going to help, put it on the right path in the right direction as to we need to get to the moot point. Are we a country which is ultimately going to be governed by the Constitution of India, or are we a country which is going to ultimately be governed by the Sharia?
Thank you, Nupur, so much. You've been extremely candid. I would urge you to please be safe, be
Thank you.
indoors until this dies down. I hope you
Thank you.
have security. Please do not move around without security. Do not take these threats lightly. We stand firmly behind you. And I hope, as somebody who writes extensively, and hopefully we will be able to spark this debate that the country needs at this point. Will Sharia govern over the rights granted to us by the law of the land and by the constitution? So please be safe, Nupur. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
talking to us, and thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being candid.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you, Nupur. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.